Let me also address, like, because I'm just not a throw stones and hide my hands type of person. To the people who made it a point to talk down publicly on the IMAs, make your posts, use your influence to say some shit about something that was being built that you didn't contribute to. Now it's not all of a sudden real. It's not a real thing all of a sudden now that you want to get involved, right? You didn't want to clap for nobody when they won. You talk shit. I don't know nobody on this list. You didn't buy a ticket. You didn't attend, but you don't want people to do that. Made music about certain things and certain stuff that I just don't like to talk about or glorify. But I might talk about God. I might talk about some conscious things, or might talk about positivity or just being a man, you know? But it's not gospel music. It's not positive music. It's not conscious music. So, you know, I was calling it non-destructive hip hop, but then I sat down with Ray Daniels and he was saying how people might take offense to that. So then I started trying to figure out what to call it. And I didn't come up with the phrase adult contemporary hip hop. It's already been floating around. People been kicking that.
Okay.
So I decided to adopt it, and I'd say I'm waving the flag for it to say that this is the next stage.
So incredibly proud of who I am today,
right,
and how I got here. I really can't say that I wish I had did something different, but I do know at the time I was afforded choices I could have made. If there is opportunity for you to make life-changing decisions and you feel like you need to, take that leap.
It's not going to be
easy.
If you make the difficult decision to change your life, you're gonna have to disconnect with some people along. You're gonna lose some people along the way. A positive change, you'll never regret it.
Because if everybody is only doing their own thing, which is fine, you can't hate on somebody trying to get where they're going.
Right.
But if nobody is trying to build something bigger, then we're all just pulling in different directions. And we wonder why the whole scene, the culture, whatever you want to call it, isn't moving forward as a whole. You need that.
Yeah.
So you need to have platforms, labels, media, whatever that is, that are investing in something bigger than just what they have going on. But I want to know who else is doing it. So maybe that's a flex, I guess, but I do feel that way because, yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like if I just wanted to do my own stuff, all that, right? It's a lot of work to try to celebrate others when we kind of get in our own way. I'm speaking for me and a lot of artists I know, but we can get in our own way sometimes.
Yeah,
creative geniuses.
You can, but also,
you know what I mean?
The people, something that you have to accept, the people that need you the most are the most disrespectful.
They do feel that way sometimes.
You know what I'm saying? So you just got to know how
they do feel that way sometimes.
Connect, reset, and refresh.
Matter of fact, you're right. Reset. We fit in a reset right now because we got somebody in the building. I'll say a friend of the show. Been here before, you know. So at that time, probably, I think it was over a year ago now. We've been here a little while. Came on the show. At that time, we talked about the Iowa Awards, a lot of stuff you had going on. You actually did some rapping on that show. I became a fan after that. But there was more to it than just the rapping, you know, because of some of the topics. You know, adult contemporary hip hop, we'll get into that, how you're kind of coined that phrase and everything you're doing for people of you know, I don't want to say older because that almost has a negative connotation, but yeah, maybe a more experienced kind of genre. So yeah, we got somebody in the building that I'm a big fan of. I think there's opportunity to do some cool stuff in the future. He's an artist, a rapper, content creator, served this country proudly, father, stands on business. He was letting us know that off camera. He said, I'm in the DMs. We figuring this out. You know what I'm saying? We figuring this out. We're not doing all those subliminals. Stand-up guy, somebody I'm a big fan of. Classics in the building, man. Hey, man, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, brother. I'm glad to be here sitting live with y'all in front of y'all, talking face to face and getting to the bottom of everything, smoothing out all the BS, because at the end of it all, we all want community and we all want
big facts
to get together and get somewhere together.
Big facts.
You know what I'm saying?
And let me take a second to shout out. I got my man, you know, your favorite neighbor off camera, the #1 producer, My guy, wouldn't be here without him.
Shit is.
Can you get a little boom, 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 man? That's for my guy, man. Appreciate you, man.
Happy to be here in your way.
Classic.
That's right. That's right.
Classic. Okay, so I know we talked about some stuff off camera.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You'll have some announcements in this episode, so y'all got to stay tuned.
That's right.
We're going to talk about some things later on.
Something y'all going to want to hear.
Yeah, no, you're definitely going to want to hear. Maybe we address a thing or two, but so let me ask you this. What were some of, like, if you had to describe your sound, what were some of the influences, not from like from the generation before you, whether it's your parents, your big brothers, whoever, what was the music that they were kind of opening you up to?
So you said not from my parents?
No, from the generation before you, though. Not like your musical influence. We'll get into those. Yeah. But like, what were you hearing early on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so...
that says a lot about kind of somebody's sound.
The stuff that I liked that my parents was, because, it was different. As a kid, you had to listen to what your parents
No, exactly. Yeah.
So it wasn't no putting on the headphones or getting on your own thing. So I liked a lot of the smoother stuff. I liked the Isleys. I liked Al Green, Marvin Gaye, in that realm.
For sure.
Soul music, live instrumentation. They were big.
Man, I love live instrumentation.
Maze,
even in today's
Frankie
music.
Beverly fans, stuff like that.
Got you. So for people who don't know, where are you from?
I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
And shout out to Ohio, man. You'll know what it is. People from Ohio are gonna be watching this right now. I promise you.
That's right.
So obviously, because you're a big deal. But I spent some time in Ohio as well. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Ohio for sure. What was it like though?
Man, coming up in Cleveland. The best years of my life. So Cleveland's on my birth certificate. I lived there. I went to the Navy when I was almost 22.
Man, shout out to that, man.
So the first half of my life was in East Cleveland, which is a much smaller suburb on the east.
Is that where Bone Thugs and Harmony is from?
No, that's the east side. So
okay.
Let me break down the culture of the city.
I ain't know.
Let me break down the culture of Cleveland. So since it sits right on Lake Erie, there's no land to the north.
Gotcha.
So the city's broken up in the east side, west side, and downtown. So Cleveland's a big city. It's like 80 miles big.
Word.
But then when someone says I'm from East Cleveland, it's a much smaller suburb, like a few square miles. So I started off in East Cleveland, and then when I was 11, we moved to the west side of Cleveland, West 25th area. But, the best years of my life was in the EC. But, rich culture in Cleveland, a lot of good food back when the steel mills were still open. Between the steel mills and street money, like, the city was alive. It's in bad shape right now, though.
For sure. So actually, Cleveland is kind of known for being like a tougher place to come up and get out of, you know what I'm saying? So what was your experience like during those, instrumental years you were trying to figure out your path, which clearly, you're pretty disciplined, you like we talked about, you served this country, you're kind of, you can just tell that you went a different direction maybe than other people who come from that environment. 100%. And so what was it like those years that shaped that mindset?
Well, the things that made me who I am was I was exposed to a lot of things very young, very early. And my response to it was just, I grew to hate it. I worked that out. I worked that out of me, over time. But, I was born in 81.
That's an honest assessment. I was born in 81 too, man. Shout out to that.
So, it was a different
big facts.
time.
He said, "Y'all old man, we're gonna give you one of these."
But when I was young, crack was a new drug. No one aspired in their life to say, "Hey, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a crackhead."
For sure.
So that was just something. Hey, you want to have a good time? Hit this, and then it had the effects it had.
Word.
So in those times, crack got pretty much my entire family. So both my parents. And, I'm the youngest of 3 kids. My sisters are 10 and 12 years old. There was a small period of time where they was all on crack at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of stuff that I've seen and a lot of situations that I've been in. And then 81 in Cleveland, I was coming home. I was walking to and from school with a key around my neck, to let myself into an empty house, or, they could still send me to the store and buy cigarettes and play lottery numbers for them. It was just a different time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I remember that time as well.
And so I didn't technically you can't say I jumped off the porch, but I lived where people came when they was in that life.
Word.
You
Word.
know, so I seen, you know, the parasites that we know as low-level drug dealers who look for a place where they can post up and not pay nothing but make as much money as they can. I've seen people having sex for drugs. I've seen people over here. I've seen, you know, I've had to call. I've just been in a lot of messed up situations.
For sure. For
You
sure.
know what I'm saying? And I've participated in different things. I got blood on my hands long before I was in the military. And, you know, and there's a lot of things where joining the military was the best thing in my life because it completely changed the trajectory of my life.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you feel like at that time there was a necessity for change? Were you heading in a direction where if you didn't shake things up, for lack of a better word, that maybe you don't end up where you are today?
Oh yeah, I definitely don't end up where I am now.
Gotcha.
Without it. But you know, because you pick from the options you believe you have.
For sure. So so what would you say to somebody? Because the situations you're speaking to, you know, I've lived through those situations.
Yeah.
Shout out to the guys. The guys are some still living in those situations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who is in that situation who, you know, because making a life-changing decision is hard to do. But if your life is not heading in the direction you want to,
right,
by definition, you almost have to make a life-changing decision.
Right.
So what would you say to somebody who is maybe struggling with how to get to that place of saying, I need to do something differently?
You know, I've thought about how to put this message in front of people because once you succeed and you get out of something, it's easy to start talking like you've never been there.
Yeah.
Or like to make the shift is so easy to do.
Word.
You know, everything seems easy once it's done.
Yeah.
But when you're first starting, it seems impossible.
Word.
You know, impossible is impossible till it's done. So if you really want to change, you're going to have to do some things. You're going to have to put yourself in the position to grow. So you're not going to grow staying around the same people. When I joined the military, I had braids, I had cornrows. I didn't say nothing to nobody.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? I just went and signed up and I came back. I said, hey, man, I went and not signed up for the Navy. And then I didn't leave immediately. I didn't leave for 6 months because I scored high on my entrance exam, the ASVAB, and I was able to pick my job. And I was waiting for 6 months before I went.
So what made you choose the Navy? Because not a lot of water in the Midwest. You feel me?
Right. because
a lot of the homies don't want to go on no boats.
Somebody I knew went off and they came back on leave and they spoke. They said it was something I should do. There was a young woman I was with at the time. I was just trying to be a stand-up dude and trying to do something to take care of me and the person that I wanted to be with for the foreseeable future. I had no options in Cleveland. You know, I didn't go off till I was 21, almost 22. So, you know, and when we talk about the stuff that I experienced in Cleveland, there was a time where I dropped out of high school and, you know, I can pull up my transcript. School was never an issue for me, but I got involved in some stuff, you know, well, it's been long. I can speak about it honestly. I was coming home, you know, I was coming home from the mall, got off the bus with my bags. Somebody robbed me. I got robbed. They did it with no I recognized them. I knew who they were.
Word. Unfortunately, that's how it is too often.
They wasn't from the area, but they would be in the area.
Word.
And then a little bit later, they got saw again. Some things happened. I know what was done, but they was able to run away, but I never saw them again. I never heard nothing, but I also didn't do much investigating. Word. So I don't know what became of them. So during that time, I was in about the 11th grade. And then at that time, I stopped going to school and, you know, I got it on my transcript. You could see it and then I decided that ain't what I wanted. So about the following year, I decided I was going to go back, but I didn't want to go to night school. I didn't want to do a GED. I just wanted to go back to school and finish because I took myself out.
Word.
So I wanted to put myself back in.
Word.
And I was in there and so I was supposed to graduate in 99. I ended up graduating in 2000. And I was telling people like, hey, man, I'm not going to graduate. You know, I don't have enough credits. And they just thought I was playing until I showed up the next year. They're like, man, what you doing here?
Yeah.
And that was the start of, you know, things turning around a little different. I wanted to go to school for fashion. There was a local fashion college in Cleveland, but the guidance counselor that I had talked me out of it.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I'm kind of can appreciate this topic because I also didn't have like trouble in school, like with the actual work. You know, my teachers always say, too smart for your own good, that type of stuff you'll hear. But I got kicked out in January of my senior year.
Yeah.
I was so close to graduating, you know what I'm saying? But instead of doing the right thing, figuring it out, you know, I was in jail right away. And then I got my GED before I even turned 18. But I was supposed to graduate in 99 as well. But then I went down a path of just making poor choices and stuff. So that's why I'm saying, you know, now I will say this. I will say this to whoever's watching this. I'm so incredibly proud of who I am today,
right?
And how I got here, and I raised my daughter well, and you know what I'm saying. And so I really can't say that I wish I had did something different, but I do know at the time I was afforded choices I could have made that I still believe I would have got here. You know what I'm saying? And it would have been much easier.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I do think that if there is opportunity for you to make life-changing decisions and you feel like you need to, take that leap.
It's not going to be easy.
It's not.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
You know,
but
I got off on a tangent.
The other side isn't easy either. You know what I mean?
The other side is a lot of regret. If you make the difficult decision to change your life, you're gonna have to disconnect with some people along the way.
That's a fact.
You're gonna lose some people along the way. A positive change. You'll never regret a positive change.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
So, okay, so now to kind of connect it to the music, you know, and what eventually is turning into adult contemporary hip hop. So during this time, when did you start to feel like, all right, you know, I want to rap, you know what I'm saying?
I had been rapping since I was about 15, serious.
Okay, so you were still in school, but going through some of those things that were, you know.
So, but I just kept it to myself. Because again, when we get to I didn't have a lot of connection with people because you're not going to make a lot of friends. When I was younger coming up, I ain't started getting fly until I was able to get my own job. Right. So coming up from that, you know, when I mentioned it, you know, my whole family, my whole immediate family being on drugs, you know, that played a part in my social status. My complexion played a part in my social status. My messed up haircut with the very nappy hair played a part in my social status. My Payless shoes, Pro Wings, XJ9, thrift store clothes, I never fit in. But once I got old enough to work, I kept a fresh haircut, a fresh temple taper, 360 waves, always fresh head to toe, you know, and that's what made me want to get into fashion because, you know, I remember when I was young and I couldn't do for myself. I said, if I could make my own clothes, I'd always be fly.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what got me on that road.
So was it, okay, so a lot of times I'll ask people who, you know, started rapping when they were a little younger, like, were you the guy in school who was like beating on the table, rapping in the ciphers? Or no, that's what I'm saying. Shout out to Cole Saint. We just had Cole Saint on the show the other day. I asked him kind of the same thing. So it sounds like you were like creating, you know, writing, rapping, but you were just kind of doing it like almost as like a workout behind closed doors or a hobby, or like, was it a release? Kind of what
that's right.
What was it during that time?
I said all that to say, like, I just gotten used to being the person that was the easy target to make fun of. So I learned how to be invisible, and I worked on my raps in secret. So that's how, that's what got me into writing, and I didn't have the confidence to do it in front of people.
Okay, but so is it safe to assume then that once you did, that when people started to hear you, that maybe you came off a little more seasoned than they expected? Because you have been because some people, it's like you just put it out there, you know what I'm saying? But if you're like working on the craft and you are somebody who is incredibly disciplined, I can only imagine how hard you work on everything that you got going on. So you probably were perfecting your craft during that time. Is that safe to assume?
You asking me that question, that might be it. When we were talking earlier and I said, you know, I started rapping just to make people like me, just to get friends.
Yeah, that was real shit.
Which is the same story for Eminem.
That was honest as fuck.
Which is the same story for Cannabis, who are highly respected lyricists, very lyrical.
For sure.
You know, because, you know, you thinking that if I rap real well, people think I'm cool, people think I'm awesome, and they'll want to be my friend. But then what you just asked me. I would challenge that.
Hope it's kind of like that too.
What you just asked me, maybe I came across too good and it intimidated people, or or flip some type of hater switch or competitive switch, it still didn't work. You know what I'm saying? Me rapping, me being good at as rapping did not help me make friends. It just made me a great rapper.
Okay, so let's talk about, because you are like active. So you have a lot going on. So, okay, so you kind of clearly had an upbringing that kind of shaped a feeling of needing to go extra hard or whatever. So were you taking rap serious before you enlisted at all? Or
I was writing seriously.
But you weren't performing or recording?
Yeah, I couldn't find nothing going on like open mics or a hip hop community. And then when everybody started getting, well, at least my parents, when my parents got clean, they got heavy in the church.
Word.
So they got clean about when I was 17, 18-ish. And then, when...
Man, that's a beautiful thing, though. Shout out to that.
Yeah, all that craziness stopped, and it could be credited to church and to God. I started going to church with them. Then it took about two-ish years to see the game in that. Shout out to Drewski.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? It took a couple years to see the game in that. I thought I was going to be a preacher. I did gospel rap for that span of time. I know the Bible very well. I still open it up, and I still might be a preacher. But in that time, when I was performing the most in Cleveland is when I was heavy in the church, as they would refer to it as on fire for the Lord.
So just to kind of follow a timeline here, that wasn't happening before you enlisted, though.
What?
Before
yeah. That was
okay,
before.
You were. So
about 18, 19.
Got you. So I always find it very interesting because I've had other, veterans on the show who were hip hop artists, and shout out to that, So I always kind of find it interesting. Did you find a hip hop community while you were enlisted at all during that time?
What? Locally where I was stationed.
So I was like other...
When I was on the ship, not other service members.
No, there was no ciphers going on the ship or nothing like that?
Yeah, but everybody had their friends and they cliques.
But for like the layman, right? To just hear about that happening, it's kind of cool to hear hip hop being like, because you guys are making songs and hearing each other's songs. That's kind of cool to think about, you know what I mean?
I connected with a couple people. Somebody I'm still connected with to this day, man. He went by P-Funk. He was a CS, which is the culinary specialist on the ships. He made beats. I linked up with him a few times. There were a couple rappers trying to do their things. We never stayed clicked up. But I was stationed on a ship in Norfolk, Virginia, USS Mason. And I had to do 5 years of sea duty. Once I started tapping into the local scene in Virginia, that's joining the military was the single best decision of my personal life. The best thing that happened to me in crafting my sauce as an artist and, refining what I do was being in Virginia and getting tapped into that local scene there in the 757, 7 cities area. Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Newport News, Hampton, etc.
Man, shout out to the Clips.
Yeah.
Speaking of adult contemporary hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was definitely
shining representation of that.
An adult contemporary hip hop.
So it's super dope to hear finding some hip hop connection while doing that. That's super cool. So you were maintaining your craft.
Yep.
During that time, you were. Do you want to talk about that time at all? Because
Yeah, I went out. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did that look like for those years? How long did you say it was? You say 9 years?
9 years, 4 months, 28 days.
So, and what was it that you did?
I was a Tomahawk missile technician.
Yo, man. Yeah, I would say you give it applause, all that for that. Like, what does that even mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So can you explain to us what that means?
Yeah, so I scored, when I took the ASVAB, I scored an 89. So I was able to pick my job. I ended up picking the advanced electronics computer field at the time. This was in 2002. You can take 2 pathways. You can take the fire controlman. Well, everybody gets the same core training, same technical core training. You learn how circuits and, logic, digits, and all that stuff.
Word.
Electrical theory, AC, DC, all of that, synchros and servos. And then once you complete your core training, you go on to either a fire controlman or electronics technician. I picked fire controlman because it was faster and I had already done months of training.
Word.
So then that's what led me to the pipeline of FC, who works with radars and certain other gun mounts and things like that. And then I ended
That's
up
crazy.
becoming the assistant class leader because I scored high on some tests in there, which allowed me to pick orders second. So when orders come out, when you figure out what job you're going to have going into the fleet, they pick in the order of class leader, assistant class leader, and then whoever has the highest grade in the class.
Word.
Since I was assistant class leader, I got to pick second. Some of the most coveted orders in my community for my job are the Tomahawk orders. It's not, you don't hear that many people who are a Tomahawk FC for their first job. That's something you already been out in the fleet, and then you get
work
to
your
go
way
back.
up to it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, it all worked out to where, I had a top secret clearance.
So just saying you were the head of the class.
Almost.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I operated and maintained the system that shot Tomahawk missiles.
That's incredible.
Can $500,000 to $1 million a missile.
Let me ask you something that might, it might be, yeah. Can you take in a short form, sentence? Can you say something that you learned while working with Tomahawk missiles that you apply to your everyday life today?
Working with Tomahawk missiles.
Now, and I know it's a kind of a tough, but what's something that you learned from that trade that you apply to your everyday life now? I'm assuming discipline, right? Because I'm guessing you got to be, these are big, huge deals, right?
Yeah.
Everything has to be done correctly in working with missiles, I assume.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
bruh, working with missiles sound crazy. That would scare me. So
everything, when you get to the military, you get to different clearance levels, everything becomes on a need to know basis. So one thing, I was already very private in my information, but just that I compartmentalize information.
I was about to say, I almost feel like you probably treat things as a need to know basis still. Yeah. I can see that.
He said, I don't mix friends.
He said, all this is off the record. It's a need to know thing. I said, okay, cool, man. That works for me.
Yeah, man.
I need to know though, so let's chop it up.
Yeah. Everybody don't need to know everything because some people get information and they try to use it.
For sure.
So
that's incredible though.
In the plan.
That's incredible. So, but while doing that high stress job, I'm sure, was there ever, during your enlistment, did you go overseas at all or anything?
Yeah, during that sea duty period. So went off to boot camp in February of 2003, completed boot camp. You're not in the military until you complete boot camp.
Gotcha.
Completed boot camp April of 2003, got to the ship. I did 3 deployments between 2005 and 2009. All of them were leaving the shores of Norfolk. The biggest Navy base in the world is in Norfolk, Virginia. So we go across the Atlantic, go up through Suez Canal, go through the Mediterranean, around the Horn of Africa.
Are you patrolling and potential
kind of?
Was there any missions or anything like that?
When you go on deployment,
where you're
it's in support of a carrier.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So I was on a destroyer, and
that's so crazy to hear. It's like a destroyer and a carrier.
Well, the carrier is like a floating city, thousands of people. And then you have several different classes of ship. You got the destroyers, what I was on. You got
you were the muscle.
Frigates.
You were the muscle.
Well, destroyers had the missiles on. That's the only offensive
because that's
weapon.
Why they have the missile guy.
Yeah. That's the only offensive weapon on the ship. Everything else is in defense. So you have 50 cal mounts. You got Sea Whiz mounts, people with certain type of guns and things like that, rifles. But so when we go out, my last deployment, we almost shot, that was also a big deal, shooting some Tomahawks. We almost shot off the coast of Somalia because they had some intel. As a matter of fact, we were involved in that situation in Captain Phillips, I'm the Captain Now.
That's a good ass movie.
But
my guy Tom Hanks.
They don't mention us, but we actually played a role in that.
My man said he was that's crazy. That's playing a role. Hold on. Yeah, we're gonna have to clip that. That's crazy. Because that's what I was, so what is a day like on a ship like that?
It's crazy.
Do you get a day off?
No. Well, technically Sundays are the days off, but when you're on deployment, it's hard to. It's better than being in jail.
I didn't want to compare it to that.
But when you're out on the water, you have to have a calendar. All the days run together. You know, you're doing the same thing. You're doing your job every day. They got things in the day where, you know, to get you up and out. I was in the berthing with about 26 people. 26 people, 3 they call racks, 3 beds stacked on top of each other. And then all your personal belongings are up under the mattress. You can lift it up, and then you have a little bit of storage. But then you have the 2 bathrooms, 2 toilets, 2 showers, 2 urinals. You know, that was just in my berthing. And then you do your job every day, and you're supposed to hit a port, you know, at least every 3 weeks or so. You know, but there are stretches where if you go, I think it's 40 days, they're supposed to, like, they have things to boost morale. You know, they would bring out like non-alcoholic beers or some type of meal or something, but you know, it was a couple.
I was going to ask about the food. What's the food like?
on the small ships, it's not that great. If you're on the carrier, they get great options. You know.
Did you ever go? Did you ever go on the, like, during that time?
I didn't
go over on the carrier at all. Spend any time over there?
Not when we were on deployments. If we had some type of training or we had something to do, I've been on the carrier a couple times. But yeah, man, the day-to-day,
monotonous.
Yeah. So but you're not having fun. You definitely.
Well, you did some rap. Yeah, I'm sure you was finding pockets, right? Or at least to stay sane,
you
right?
Figure it out.
To stay sane, at least, right? To remember who you are, kind of type of thing.
Luckily, it was it had men and women on it.
Gotcha.
You know, there's some ships, at least especially back in the day, it was, you know, all guys. And then on the submarine, you know, they're just.
You been on a submarine?
No, they starting to toy with the idea of having women on the sub, but you know, at least there was some women there.
Let me ask you this: did you ever see any crazy things at sea, like big whales or like storms or anything like that?
Oh yeah, the storms can get bad, especially with the way the boat rides.
That's what I'm saying. I can't even imagine. So were y'all were in some crazy storms out there?
Yeah.
So you just hunkered down, kind of, or was there ever any fear?
They come over the. Of course. You know, you just,
because that sounds scary as hell, right? Being on a boat in the ocean, and the shit just going crazy.
Yeah. When they expect some rough seas, they'll come over the intercom center known as the 1MC, and they'll say secure for sea, which means, you know, tie anything.
Secure for sea is crazy.
Anything that rolls, anything that moves, tie it down.
If the water higher than my knees is too deep for me.
That's what I'm saying.
And you want to know something else is crazy? I was in the Navy. 3 deployments.
I know what you're about to say, and I can't believe it. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I can't swim.
I knew he was going to say that. I knew he was going to say that.
And then you have to go. They make sure they teach you how to swim. Hey, they taught me. That's why I said it was meant to be, man. Because they taught me how to do the backstroke. I jumped off this high diving board into an Olympic length pool, went down backstroke, came down backstroke. I passed. And then we had to do the what's called the dead man's float. You have to put some air in your coveralls and float and stay up for like 30 seconds. I passed that shit and I made it. I've tried to swim since then. I don't float, man.
Got you. So, no, that's how I was wondering what life was like at sea and how that went. So when you could see other ships too, right?
Yeah.
You're like a fleet?
Yeah. So we go out as a group, as a strike group. So the carriers, the big dogs,
sound crazy.
And then there's a bunch of smaller supporting ships.
So was the Navy involved? Like, so obviously we can get too much into it, but there's like some war stuff happening, right?
Yeah.
Is the Navy involved in anything like that you're seeing? Would the Navy be like
that's
setting up the carriers where maybe these things are taken off from or anything like that?
Part of America's dominance is we got the strongest naval force.
Gotcha.
There's no other nation with a Navy how we have a Navy.
Gotcha.
You know, and even if they have ships, they bought them from us.
It's like Tesla, we could just turn them off.
Right.
Be like, oh, y'all thought y'all had a Navy. Click.
Yeah. So, and then even when you get down to the Tomahawks, you know, not to get too specific, but they have planned paths. You know what I'm saying? So like before we push shoot, if it's in support of a mission that's way above our pay grade. So say for example, if they programmed it to fly through this window right here, it could. You know what I'm saying? If they programmed to take the missile to fly, I'm talking about with precision. It has a flight path, and once it gets to a certain coordinate, it follows that path, and it's going to get to where it's going to get. Like I said, it's $500,000 to $1 million a missile, but highly programmed, and if they send them your way, they got you.
Okay, I know I feel like it's life's not a movie, and I get that, but us laymen's, that's what we kind of have. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So, do you ever have like the superiors that you kind of see in movies that are like maybe more disciplined and maybe more kind of, you know,
Well, you know, when
you can't handle the truth.
Anybody who's been in the military, you watch those movies and you automatically gonna look, those are the wrong shoes with that uniform. You wouldn't wear all those medals. They wouldn't have that badge. They wouldn't have that collar device. Hair is too long, like, because the military regulations are precise.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not like the movies.
No.
Okay, that makes sense.
They usually hire a consultant, but you know something's gonna slip through.
For sure.
You know, and it's funny.
So yeah, we're gonna so now after you got out of the military, I'm guessing the music, there are lots of things started to come into play.
That's right.
So, you know, we're gonna take a break here. I'm gonna change the battery in the camera. And then when we come back, we're gonna talk about, I told you we got that announcement. We're gonna talk about what I'm guessing is you stepped out of there and there was a hunger and a passion for music still that you started to act on.
That's right.
And that's what got you here today.
That's
well, and that's what's getting you traveling all over, working with Grammy-nominated manager, producer, artist, you know, doing some wild things with the awards. And, oh, my bad. I was supposed to bring it up, but, you know, y'all doing the work. And that's what we're here to talk about. So we're going to take a break and we're going to get right back to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make you turn to your neighbor on a nigga. God said it's my season. See the flavor on a nigga. Bossed up, made my payment on you niggas. Yeah, I waited my turn. Now it's time my turn. Tables on you niggas. Told him, tell him. Write my name on the top of the game. You can't stop it. The spot's rocking it.